And just like that, we're back. That's how quickly things are happening. This is live TV, I want to say. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are officially on the clock, and we are watching that closely right now. I can tell you that Terrell Jana was taken with the 17th overall pick by the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which means the Hamilton Tiger Cats are on the clock, for 2 picks in a row here. It is a snake draft that is new this year. Of course, last year there was no season played, so they kind of rejigged the rules in terms of how the draft will work. And so it is a snake draft. And so the Hamilton Tiger Cats will pick with the 18th and 19th pick coming up in just a little bit. I will remind you, Steve Milton is getting set to join us as soon as he can, and he'll learn the picks as we do, I'm assuming. Derek Taylor's coming up later this hour, Sean Burke. Nick Cross will be here as well, and then Farhan Lalji will go right from his TSN desk to joining us here on the Draft Night Show, CFL Draft Show powered by TELUS. Steve Milton might be with us here. Milty, do I have you here?
You do, but do you see me? That's the thing.
I can't see you, but I'm not sure too many of our. I wasn't going to go there. Never mind.
Yeah. I don't understand why that isn't the case here.
All right. Well, we can hear you, and like I said, this goes back to our radio days, of course.
Right.
Where we got started. You and I got started working together.
Yeah, we started together. I started a little bit before that in radio. Yes.
Yeah, a little bit. But let's talk about what the Ticats have done so far tonight.
Yeah.
You mentioned they're on the clock right now with the 18th and 19th pick. Some people said that they had a need at national receiver. They seem to have filled that with the first overall pick.
And came within a hair here of getting a second.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they had Jana rated higher actually in ability than the player they took number 1 overall. But they were looking at basically roster starting, and Jana just got taken at right before Hamlin's pick by Saskatchewan. Or my guess is they would have had him too. So we'll see what they do on that one. But getting Burt first, Jake Burt is something that's quite. As soon as I saw he was eligible, whenever that was a couple of weeks ago, my mind went right away to Nick Kalanick, because that's one of the overlooked things that happened in 2019. Is how they created that hybrid position of basically H-back, which is blocking fullback or running fullback, swing out of the backfield for a pass, can take passes, classic tight end. It looks like the Ticats are they ready to draft now?
They're just talking now. We'll watch.
We'll keep on that. Okay, sorry. And so I think that he might not only challenge, create competition for that position, which they plan to use, because they had a whole package built around it in 2019 around Kalanick, and people forget that. It was kind of an off the board pick when they took him early. I think they took him 10th that year. And I think it was, kind of one of those things. And Tommy built a package around him, and they didn't have any depth behind him. So this is not only depth behind him; he might challenge him and start there. And then of course, you don't have to. Maybe it depends where you started. As a tight end for the blocking, split him out a bit into the slot for a receiver. Does he block? And in which case you replace what might be one of the Canadian starters at running back. All those things. And Sean Burke has mentioned the possibility you could use both guys because they're different types, even though they look similar. You could use both of those guys in various roles at the same time. So there's a lot of roster flexibility there. That was interesting.
And I the one thing that this team has preached basically since day one, and we've heard it a lot, when it comes to the quarterback battle, is that competition. Competition is key. Yeah. And this team especially, right? They've kind of built in competition, and this year even more so, going into a camp where you probably think the Ticats have 120 people they'd want to bring to camp, but there's going to be some tough decisions here that need to be made. Well,
yeah, there are, because you're not going to bring people that aren't going to play there this year to camp. So you're going to start drafting some futures, But really, 4 out of the first 9 were future picks. In other words, by teams in the CFL, and Hamilton had 2 of those were not future picks. right. And maybe there's a fifth one that isn't a future pick, depending on what Ottawa does with Deshaun there, the defensive back. But by replacing ostensibly Nick Shorthill at linebacker by taking the linebacker Nick Cross, right, who probably upgrades them, being a linebacker, but they're getting a little bit short of Canadian bodies of that type, and he probably ends up back in the secondary at some point, and joins a secondary that's fairly deep of guys that can play safety and Sam linebacker, right, and Delke, all those people. So you could have some flexibility there. And plus your special teams are upgraded, and you replace a very important guy on that team, which is Nick Shorthill. So the first two picks, they didn't take a future, right? They didn't take a future guy. They took somebody who, both of them, they're going to be in camp because there's only so many people they can invite to camp with all the guys. They signed 7 out of their 8 guys from last year, and one of those is the future, the kicker. And let's suppose they bring 6. Like you have 6 choices this year. There's not room for 13.
Yeah, we are getting the pick. The pick is in now, and I can tell you that Ticats have selected Deontay Leonard, defensive back out of Mississippi. So going DB, defensive, Deontay Leonard. Again, a spot where the Ticats want to create competition, and a guy who can come in and make some noise in camp.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure much about him. Has he got any eligibility left? Has he got that extra year? There's a potential he can go back.
Keep an eye on that now. Deontay Leonard. Yeah. So we were expecting the TSN coverage to be off at this point, but we're glad they're still sticking around to bring us that pick. But Dean Leonard is the pick out of Calgary. He's a Calgary native, played for Ole Miss, was a first-team All-Canadian in 2019 with Calgary. Just following the notes that they got here, he was 10th on the Central Scouting Bureau. But again, someone who I think the Ticats, again, I'll have Berkey on coming up in about 15 minutes. But when you look at what they've done so far tonight, they're staying busy. And again, they're a good team that's getting better, or they're adding pieces to be better, moving into a 2021 season that they're hosting the Grey Cup and want to make some noise. There's going to be expectations on this team in 2021. Well, there's
expectations. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's interesting that they went for 2 people right away that could help. And maybe this is a third as well, but it might, but create depth at certain spots. They already had a lot of depth at a certain, like Canadian running back. And they have more depth there if you decide occasionally that you would use one of your tight end types at running back and go with an extra American receiver, wide receiver. There's a lot of things they can do here. Now, the TSN analysts, and they're great, and correctly so, have talked an awful lot about Toronto and their Canadian talent. And the difference between them and Hamilton is these guys have already been in Hamilton, most of the ones that are the depth and breadth of and have proven, most of them, that they can start at several different positions. Not the 2 that they got today, but who were already in the lineup. Where Toronto is going to have to do some mixing and matching for some while. They got some great talent coming in. There's no doubt about that. With the short training camp, and a lot of the big names haven't played for Toronto before. They played perhaps in the CFL or they played in the NFL, but there'll be an adjustment period there. And I think I still not sure I would trade Hamilton's long-term depth and breadth for anybody's, although they were correct to point out Toronto's pretty good depth there, that they have right now. And Calgary still they're rebuilding a bit, but they're turning things over.
And credit to John Murphy and Pinball Clemens in Toronto for what they're doing, because yes. The league is better when Toronto is good, when Toronto is competitive, right? I mean, it's
not only the league, but particularly Hamilton's better.
Hamilton, it's cliche to say, but I mean, it is. Nobody wants to see that. I mean, you do, but if you're blowing them out every night, I think the rest of the league's kind of stepped up their game in the last off season and a half, I guess we can call it. And as much as there might be a target on the Ticats' back as the quote unquote, Vegas favorites to win the Grey Cup in 2021, a lot of teams have been putting a lot of work, and people are going to be hungry just to be on the field. So, I mean,
for sure. I mean, it's going to be, teams are going to bring their A game every night. And by that second half of this season, or of the last time they played, 2019, they were doing that. Because Ticats got off to such a great start, particularly in Hamilton. They made Tim Hortons a very tough place to visit again. So So I think you're right. They had a target on their back. They had their target on the back in the postseason. Didn't turn out well in the Grey Cup. Then that is an understatement. But really, that was one day, and they've had a target on their back for a little while now. They've had a target on the back this entire 2 off seasons now, right? So it's created an updraft, and I think I like the way Toronto has responded, and I like the way Montreal has responded, to some degree there. It's all on paper, though. For most people, except I think for the Ticats, because most of the guys that they're going to bring back as their Canadian depth and breadth have played and have shown that they can play. And they got some new guys now.
Well said. Milty, thank you so much for doing this. It's great to chat with you. Wish I could have seen your lovely face, but we'll save that for another day. Thanks for doing this, Milty.
Still a long night to go yet. I'll be talking to Berkey all night, I think so.
I believe it. Drew, thanks, buddy. That is, of course, Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator. Thank you for stopping by. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Ticats CFL Draft Show powered by TELUS.